Hip hop was built on the flex, the chains, the cars, the mansions with the infinity pools, and the closets full of sneakers that cost more than most people's rent. And yes, plenty of rappers live exactly like that. Turn on any playlist from the last 20 years and you will find at least 3 songs dedicated entirely to the act of spending money on things that make other people feel bad for not having them. But what if I told you that some of the richest men in the entire history of this music, men sitting on tens and hundreds and even billions of dollars, live like they have absolutely nothing? Not because they lost it all, not because the IRS came knocking, not because the label took everything and left them with nothing but a gold record on the wall, but because they chose to. Because somewhere between the Margiela Fits and the Maybach SUVs and the chartered jets, a handful of rappers looked at all that noise and decided, not for me. Today we're pulling back the curtain on the rappers who are quietly loaded beyond comprehension and spending like they still have a maxed out credit card and a prayer.
I want that grandchildren money. That's what I'm after. So that's my next thing, investments.
And to really appreciate how rare these men are, consider what the alternative looks like. MC Hammer made an estimated $33 million and ended up $50 million in debt. His entourage at one point included 200 employees and a stable of racehorses. Bow Wow went viral after someone caught him flying commercial the same day he had posted a photo from what he claimed was his private jet. Turned out, the jet in the photo belonged to a Florida rental company. He had screenshotted off their website.
So here, out of all of this, we see what was born yesterday was hashtag Bow Wow Challenge. Twitter filling themselves with pictures of something that looks glamorous, but it turns out to be quite the opposite. Here's a couple.
And then there is 50 Cent, who earned nearly $300 million over the course of his career and made $80 million alone from the vitamin water sale to Coca-Cola, filed for bankruptcy in 2015 and declared a net worth of $16 million in court documents. $300 million in, $16 million left. That is not bad luck. That is a lifestyle that ate everything it touched. Now compare all of that to the men on this list and try to understand how different a relationship with money can look when you are truly secure in who you are.
It's interesting because once you're successful and you're publicly noted, you become a target, a bullseye.
Eminem. Let's start with the most surprising name on this list, because when you hear it, part of your brain is going to push back. Marshall Mathers, Slim Shady, the rap god, the man who has sold over 220 million records worldwide, won 15 Grammy Awards, scored an Academy Award for Best Original Song, and has an estimated net worth of $250 million, is living in a house in Clinton Township, Michigan, that he bought for $1,483,000 in the year 2000. That is less than 1% of what he could spend on a home. Less than 1%. A man who could buy a block of Beverly Hills penthouses has been living in the same Michigan suburb for over 24 years. The exterior is brick. The driveway has a fountain. It has 4 bedrooms and 6 bathrooms. It is, in the words of people who study celebrity real estate for a living, modest by the standards of a megastar. Put that in perspective. Drake built a 50,000 square foot mansion in Toronto so large it has its own nickname, the Embassy, reportedly worth close to $100 million. Rick Ross bought Evander Holyfield's 109-room Georgia estate for $5.8 million and converted it into his personal compound, complete with a 350,000-gallon pool and roaming buffalo. And Eminem, the best-selling rapper of the 21st century, has been in the same Clinton Township house since George W. Bush was running for his first term in office. In 2003, Eminem did purchase a larger Rochester Hills estate for $4.75 million, a 17,000 square foot property with a tennis court, a pool, and 21 rooms. He lived there for 14 years. Then he sold it in 2017 for $1.9 million. That is right, he sold a nearly $5 million mansion for 60% below what he paid. And rather than upgrading to something bigger, something more fitting of a man with a $250 million net worth, he went back to Clinton Township, back to the modest house, back home. The psychology here is not hard to read for anyone who knows Eminem's story. This is a man who grew up moving between his mother's apartment in Detroit and relatives' homes across state lines, who slept on friends' couches as a young rapper, who was working the night shift at Little Caesars and battling for his life at Detroit rap showcases just to keep the dream breathing. When you have lived that close to the edge, when the memory of genuine poverty is something you can still taste, you do not throw money at possessions to prove a point. The point was never the house. The point was the music. Everything else was noise. While the rest of hip-hop was flying to Mykonos on rented yachts and posting it to Instagram, Eminem was in a home studio in suburban Michigan, building a catalog that still earns passive income in the tens of millions every single year, $250 million sitting in the account, and the house barely scratches the surface of what he could afford. The real Slim Shady stood up and stayed right where he started. J. Cole. Here is a man who will make you feel like you have been watching hip-hop wrong your entire life. Jermaine Cole. Born in Fayetteville, North Carolina, after his mother had him while stationed in Germany with the US Army. He grew up working class, earned a degree at St. John's University while pursuing music on the side, and spent his early career couch surfing and interning at Jay-Z's Roc Nation offices in New York, some nights sleeping there just to be near the people who might one day give him a chance. He had $60 in his bank account the day he first met Jay-Z. $60, that detail lives in hip-hop legend now. The music deal he eventually landed changed everything. He now has an estimated net worth of $60 million, and you would never know it.
Frugal means you don't spend because you're cheap at it. Mindful means, yeah, I'll splurge, I'll treat myself, there's things that I do.
I would definitely say mindful.
No chains, no Lamborghinis, no Fashion Week appearances draped in designer logos from head to toe, no Instagram posts from a private jet, no entourage burning through money at a club on bottle service. J. Cole drives normal cars. He wears plain clothes that look like something pulled off a clearance rack. He does not wear jewelry. He has spoken about this directly in his own words without making it sound like a moral lecture. He told Kevin Hart on the Heart to Heart show, "I am smart with my money, and that comes from fear. I never want to be broke again, so I am slow to spend."
And that just comes from fear. It's like, bro, I don't never ever want to be broke again, so I'm slow to like.
That line, "I am slow to spend," is the operating philosophy of a man who has understood something most entertainers take decades to figure out. The gap between what you earn and what you keep is where fortunes either grow or disappear completely. Cole watched what happened to artists who chased the image instead of the investment. He saw the cycles, he saw the court documents and the bankruptcies, and the Instagram flexes followed years later by the quiet GoFundMes. He chose differently, and the results are remarkable. He launched Dreamville Records as an independent label. He co-owns a stake in Tidal. He secured a multi-year partnership with Puma. He has real estate and strategic business investments. He built a $60 million net worth from royalties, touring, and smart deals without ever once reaching for the lifestyle of a rapper who was broke 3 years later. The wardrobe costs almost nothing. The cars cost almost nothing. The chains cost nothing because there are no chains. In an industry where performing success is practically a job requirement, J. Cole decided the actual job was making music, not performing it. Those two things are not always the same. Kendrick Lamar. In 2014, while Drake was buying a $9 million Hollywood Hills mansion and Rick Ross was snapping up Evander Holyfield's sprawling compound, Kendrick Lamar did something that stopped the hip-hop internet cold. He bought a house in Eastvale, California, 1 hour east of Los Angeles. A 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home in a quiet suburban neighborhood on a normal street, surrounded by normal families going about normal lives. The price tag, $523,000. $523,000. For a rapper who at that moment was being called the best alive by critics on both coasts, who had just released Good Kid, M.A. City to universal, unqualified acclaim, who was heading into what everyone around him already sensed would become one of the defining artistic catalogs of his entire generation. And he bought a house that you could find in any suburban California zip code for $500,000. The detail that made the story land even harder came out later. His label head, Anthony Tiffith, confirmed it. The house was not even for Kendrick. It was a gift to his parents. His mother had spent her life on Section 8 housing assistance in Compton. When Kendrick came to her with the house, she hesitated. She was not sure she wanted to give up her benefits. She was not sure the money would hold. Kendrick had to look her in the eye and tell her, "It's okay, Mom, we're good." His father said afterward, "It was hard times and we've been through a lot, but we're here now." He bought his parents a $500,000 house. And he continued renting for himself. Kendrick Lamar, who would go on to win the Pulitzer Prize for Damn. In 2018, the first non-classical, non-jazz musician in the history of that award to receive it, who headlined the Super Bowl halftime show in 2025 in front of over 130 million viewers, was renting his own apartment while his mother settled into the house he bought her. He did eventually build out his own situation. A Calabasas home in 2018 for $2.65 million, a Manhattan Beach property, a Bel Air estate, a New York City penthouse, assembling over the years a portfolio now estimated at close to $80 million. But the sequence is the story. First, take care of the family, then build the foundation, then only once the ground is completely solid underneath you, spend in proportion to what you have actually earned. His estimated net worth today sits at $140 million. His chain collection is not the subject of magazine profiles. His car collection does not require a separate insurance policy. He moved through the most celebrated decade in modern rap looking and spending like a man with a fraction of what he had. Compton never fully left the spending habits, even as the numbers grew beyond anything that neighborhood could have imagined. Jay-Z. And now the most interesting and layered case on this entire list, because Jay-Z is not modest in the way J. Cole is modest or Eminem is modest. He spent lavishly for years. He rapped about the Maybach and the Ace of Spades and the Patek Philippe until those words became woven into a very specific version of what hip-hop aspiration was supposed to look like. He wore the watches, he took the yachts, he lived in New York and Los Angeles like a man who intended to be seen. The image was real, but here's what most people missed: the image was also a strategy. Sean Carter is worth $2.8 billion as of 2026. $2.8 billion. He is not just the richest rapper in the world, he is one of the richest entertainers in the history of human civilization. And the way he got there was not by buying things, it was by buying stakes in things. He invested early in Uber, before most people outside Silicon Valley had even heard of it. He launched Tidal, a streaming service, for $56 million and sold it to Jack Dorsey's Square for a reported $297 million. He co-founded Rocawear with Damon Dash in 1999 and sold it to Iconics Brand Group for $204 million 8 years later. He owned stakes in Armand de Brignac Champagne and Douce Cognac when LVMH, the most powerful luxury conglomerate on the planet, cut a deal for a 50% stake in Armand de Brignac. The valuation placed on that brand alone exceeded $600 million. His entertainment company Roc Nation operates across music, sports, film, and fashion. Every time Jay-Z name-dropped a brand in a song, he was building an asset. The flex was not vanity, it was vertical integration. When Jay-Z sat down with Warren Buffett for a joint Forbes interview in 2010, the Oracle of Omaha, a man who has lived in the same Omaha house since 1958, who eats McDonald's for breakfast and has publicly tried to pay with coupons, pointed across the table and told the room that Jay-Z was the person young people should be learning from.
You don't need a lot of brains in this business. I mean, I've always said if you got an IQ of 160, give away 30 points to somebody else because you don't need it in investments. What you do need is emotional stability. You have to be able to think independently, and you have to be, when you come to a conclusion, you have to really not care what other people say and just follow the facts and follow your reasoning. And that's tough for a lot of people. But, that part I think I was just lucky with. I was born that way.
Not a hedge fund manager, not a tech founder, a rapper from the Marcy Projects in Brooklyn who sold drugs as a teenager and started his career moving CDs out of his car. Buffett saw something in Jay-Z's approach to money that resonated with his own deepest principles. Jay-Z confirmed it in that same conversation. He said, "Music is like stocks. There's always a momentary craze. People make impulsive decisions based on that. They neglect what they truly know." That is Warren Buffett in a Rockefeller chain. It is the exact philosophy that separates generational wealth from a career that ends in bankruptcy court. Every rapper who spent the advance on the Lamborghini was chasing the momentary craze. Jay-Z was buying equity in the thing people would still want 20 years later. The discipline not to get caught up in the moment is worth $2.8 billion. You can run the math yourself. So what is actually happening here? Why do some of the wealthiest, most successful rappers in history choose to live in ways that would make people who earn a fraction of their income feel wealthy by comparison? Part of it is the scar tissue of poverty that never fully heals. Eminem worked the night shift at a pizza restaurant and slept on couches. J. Cole had $60 the day he met the man who would change his life. Kendrick's mother did not want to give up her Section 8 housing because she was not sure the money would last. When you have lived that close to the edge, not almost broke, not a bad month, but genuinely nothing close, the fear becomes a permanent resident in the mind. It does not pack its bags just because a check with a lot of zeros arrives. J. Cole said it as plainly as it can be said, "I never want to be broke again." That fear, redirected properly, is not a weakness. It is a force multiplier. Part of it is also the education hip-hop provides, whether it wants to or not. The culture has generated an extraordinary graveyard of cautionary tales, many of them highly public and deeply instructive. MC Hammer, Bow Wow, 50 Cent, Men who earned fortunes most people cannot conceptualize and still ended up in court explaining why the number was so much smaller than anyone expected. The men on this list did not need a financial advisor to spot the pattern. They watched it play out in real time, in careers they could see from their own windows, and they made a different decision before the money even arrived. But there is something underneath all of that, something harder to quantify than fear or financial literacy. Every man on this list came to music not because they wanted to be famous, but because the music itself was the answer to something. Eminem rapped through abuse and addiction and abandonment and found that the word saved him. J. Cole built entire albums around the question of what success costs the soul and whether it is worth the price. Kendrick Lamar turned his childhood in Compton into scripture. Jay-Z wrote his way out of a housing project and never stopped writing because the writing was the point. When the music is the real thing, the rest of it, the chains, the cars, the rooms in hotels that cost more per night than most people earn in a month, is just decoration on top of something that already meant everything. And the men who feel that way about their craft are the ones who can afford to live in a regular house in Michigan, or drive a Toyota through Fayetteville, or buy their parents a $500,000 home in the suburbs while they keep renting. Because they are not trying to prove to themselves or to anyone else that they made it. They already know. They knew it long before the money confirmed it. The ones who need the world to see the Bugatti are the ones who still need to be convinced. The ones who are already convinced, who carry the certainty of their own worth all the way back to a Detroit couch or a Compton street corner or a housing project in Brooklyn. Those are the ones who end up with the billions. Because the real flex, it turns out, is never needing to flex at all.